Hello and welcome to another Magic 2015 gameplay. Today we are taking a look at Abzan Midrange. I guess you could also call it Abzan Control, because it does have a sweeper in it. But it's a deck that's trying to use Armament Corps, a card from the latest DLC, a 4/4 that distributes 2+1/+1 counters when he enters the battlefield. So if you don't have any other creatures, then he's simply a 6/6. And if you do have other creatures, those +1/+1 counters could be very useful. So that's Armament Corps. The latest DLC also gave us Sandsteppe Citadel, the tri-land in the Abzan colors, which improves the mana base significantly. So let's take a look at all the cards. We are running a Brimaz, a very powerful 3-drop that can close out the game all by himself. It's very good at blocking and attacking into smaller creatures, and can stabilize the board early on, but is still very powerful late. Then we've got a one-off Séance, because we do have some small graveyard synergies. With a lot of creatures that have entered the battlefield abilities, Séance becomes very interesting, so I do like the one copy just as a value card to gain some card advantage. Then we've got one Baneslayer Angel, a very powerful card that can win the game all by herself. Can win you a race when you're behind just because of the lifelink, and the protection from demons are not irrelevant in this game. So a must-have in any white deck. Then we've got Planar Cleansing as our sweeper, can deal with artifacts and enchantments, unlike Anger of the Gods, and it is a bit expensive at 6 mana, so it's not very good early on, but in a late game it's an absolute powerhouse, and I'm happy to have it. Then we've got Tribute to Hunger as an Edict effect, so it also gains us some life. The downside of Edict effects, of course, is if your opponent has some small insignificant creatures laying around, then it's not very effective. So you want to use this when they only have one powerful creature out. So maybe you can use this early on if they don't have any other creatures, or after a sweeper, for example. This can get their larger creatures. So I do like some copies of Tribute. Then we've got Graveborn Muse as a card advantage engine. Getting some extra cards at the cost of some life is usually worth it, and we do have some ways to gain back some life in this deck, so that should not be a problem. Then we've got Shadowborn Demon as an additional removal spell, and he can sometimes stick around and deal some extra damage, because we do have some graveyard synergies going on. But usually it's just a 1/1 removal spell that maybe deals 5 damage and then goes to the graveyard. So still very powerful. Then we've got a Sheoldred Whispering one, an absolute powerhouse as well in this deck. And the repeated Edict effect on the opponent's turn, and you getting to get back creatures from the graveyard, means that if you resolve Sheoldred and she stays around for 1 or 2 turns, you usually win the game. And again, very powerful. Playing her on turn 7 after playing a Planar Cleansing on 6, because then the Edict effect becomes even more powerful. Then we've also got a Rune-Scarred Demon, a 7 mana 6/6 that searches up any card in your deck, so very powerful. Usually you get the other Rune-Scarred Demon when you play the first one, unless you need a very specific card right away. So you can get back a sweeper, a removal spell, more card advantage, you name it, and Rune-Scarred Demon can get it. Sometimes you just need an extra land, you can always go for an extra land. Then we've got Elvish Visionary as an early creature that also draws a card, the enter the battlefield ability being very relevant with cards like Sheoldred, with cards like Séance, for example. So that's why I like the Elvish Visionaries for the early game. Then we also have Satyr Wayfinder for the early game, helps us find extra lands so we can hit our 7-drops, and also fixes our mana in a way, because it allows us to find the specific lands we need if we're still needing a 3rd color, for example. And also puts cards in the graveyard, which is relevant for Sheoldred, and is also relevant for the one-off Séance, and is also relevant for Treasure Find, which we'll get back to in just a bit. So a very good creature for the early game, and buys you some time against the aggressive decks by chump blocking or trading. Then we've got Cultivate, the typical ramp card in any green deck, helps us find more lands, helps us ramp, helps us fix our mana, just does everything, and is a must-have. Then we've got Arbor Colossus as another powerful 5-drop, which is very good in this deck because we have those 3 mana ramp cards like Cultivate and Darksteel Ingot, so on turn 4 we'll be able to cast a 5-drop, and Arbor Colossus is a very powerful one, stopping any flying creatures like Stormbreath Dragon or Baneslayer Angel, and then becoming monstrous and killing those flyers, and attacking for lots and lots of damage. Then we've got Pelakka Wurm as another stabilizing card, gaining 7 life, and having trample is very useful against token decks. So just a very powerful card overall, and again a very powerful ETB effect for Sheoldred and Séance. Then Darksteel Ingot as an additional ramp card and mana fixer to complement the Cultivates. Then Armament Corps, and as another powerful 5-drop, works very well with those small creatures like Elvish Visionary and Satyr Wayfinder. Giving them a +1/+1 counter can be very valuable. And otherwise it's just a 6/6 for 5 mana, which is not bad. And the ETB effect also very relevant again with Sheoldred and Séance. And then finally 1 treasure find to go along with those Satyr Wayfinders, and maybe just to recur a powerful card you might have played earlier. So a pretty powerful card, but I don't want to have too many copies, because if you have too many of them they don't really do anything if you don't have cards in the graveyard. So that's why I like the 1 copy there. And then our mana base, we are running 2 Orzhov Guildgate, 2 Golgari Guildgate, full 4 Selesnya Guildgate, the full 3 Sandsteppe Citadel, 6 forests, 3 swamps, and 4 plains, so slightly more basics than tap lands, which is always nice. Alright, let's play some games and see how the deck does. Alright, let's take a look at our opener. And we are on the play with 2 lands, a Cultivate and a Darksteel Ingot, plus some powerful cards. So if we draw a 3rd land, this hand becomes very, very good. But we are on the play, so we don't get that extra draw step. I think I risk it and just keep, because if we do draw that 3rd land, then I think this is an easy game, because we can go 3 mana ramp spell into 5-drop, and then have another ramp spell for our 7-drop. Alright, so still no 3rd land unfortunately, but hopefully our opponent is not playing an aggressive deck that can punish or slow draw. And that's another Guildgate, so looks like another mid-rangey green deck, and still no 3rd land unfortunately, so we don't have to discard quite yet, but next turn we will, if we don't draw a land. And opponent 3 mana and no play it looks like, so that's good for us. And there's a 3rd land, right on time. Unfortunately it's Guildgate that comes into play tapped, so we don't get to play our ramp spells. But our opponent is not doing anything either, so... Alright, and looks like he missed his 4th land drop, which we will not. So let's go ahead and cast, let's see, if we cast Cultivate, then... yeah, we should not have too many cards left in hand. So cast a Cultivate, I think we can get another black and another... We do have triple green already, so let's get another white source. And play the Guildgate and pause the turn with 7 cards left in hand, so we don't have to discard. And next turn we can even play a 6-drop if we draw one, but we don't have one right away. Opponent drew into a Cultivate, which he plays. So let's find out if he has more than 2 colors. Nope, looks like just green-red. And passing over the turn. So looks like a mid-range mirror match here. So we'll get to find out if red is better than black and white. Alright, interesting. So we drew Satyr Wayfinder. We could just deploy the Armament Corps here. I do also kind of like setting up some more ramp cards so we can play our 7-drops next turn. So let's go ahead and play the Satyr Wayfinder. and see what we hit. And let's get this Guildgate. So we can play the Guildgate as well as the Ingot here. And pause a turn, because I do like saving the Armament Corps here. Because if our opponent also has a Pelakka Wurm, we can play our Pelakka Wurm and then put a +1/+1 counter on it to beat the opponent's Pelakka Wurm with ours, which sounds pretty sweet. Alright, opponent has a Goblin Rebel Master, so an aggressive creature that would have been very powerful earlier, but now it's just going to run into our big creatures. And do we take the trade here is a question. And I don't think we do, although with a Sheoldred it's to our advantage to keep the board clean. So maybe we do just trade here. Alright. And nothing else. So now the question is, do we go ahead and play the Sheoldred right away, now that she's not in Ground Assault range, because her opponent only has 5 lands, so Ground Assault will only deal 5 damage? Or do we run out our other big creatures first to maybe try and bait the Ground Assault so our opponent doesn't have it for Sheoldred? But I do think we just run her out here, because we are guaranteed pretty much to kill this Goblin Rebel Master at the very least. So that seems worth it. And if he does go land Ground Assault, then we still have a lot of other powerful creatures left. Alright, there's the Edict effect. Away Goblin Rebel Master goes. And let's see if our opponent does have the 6 land into Ground Assault. Instead it's a Portent of Betrayal. Did not see that coming. So our opponent gets to steal our creature and scry one, but only until end of turn. So unless he has like a fling to sacrifice Sheoldred and deal another 6 damage to us, I think we're fine. But I think our opponent might just have fling to sacrifice Sheoldred and deal 6 to us, which would not be very nice of him. Yep, there's a fling. So here you can read it. You can sacrifice a creature and deal damage equal to the power. So we're down to 8, but now we can just stabilize with Pelakka Wurm, which is I think the play here. And let's see, 6, 7... no, we can't play Cultivate before playing Pelakka Wurm. So let's just play Pelakka Wurm to get out of another burn spell range, or maybe another fling, who knows. Although if our opponent does have another Portent into fling, he gets to draw a card with Pelakka Wurm. But hopefully he doesn't. And let's see here. What do we do next turn? Probably just play Rune-Scarred Demon and look for either another Pelakka Wurm to gain some life or another Rune-Scarred Demon. Of course, the opponent's strategy of stealing creatures and then sacrificing them is very effective against our 7 drops, because they do a lot of damage to us. But I don't think there's a great way around that. So 6 mana Inferno Titan, a good target for Shadowborn Demon. So I think I'll play the Shadowborn Demon plus Cultivate next turn here. And yep, another land. So let's go ahead and cast Cultivate. I don't think it matters what we get here. And go ahead and play Shadowborn Demon, killing Inferno Titan. And then we can attack for 7. We are at 12, which is pretty low. So I think this Rune-Scarred Demon will just get another Pelakka Wurm, because Baneslayer Angel is in the graveyard. So hopefully our opponent doesn't go for another fling and steal spell here. But if our opponent doesn't find a creature here to block, then we might just be able to kill him next turn, but there's an act of treason. There's Pelakka Wurm on the other side, hello. And an attack, and I do think we block here, just because I think we've got the late game locked up. And taking extra damage seems like a bad idea. And we would have to sacrifice the demon next turn anyways. Alright, there's a fling, so opponent has all the good cards here. And gets to draw a card from Pelakka Wurm, deal 7, we go down to 4. So hopefully he doesn't have another steal spell here. Let's see, another Pelakka Wurm. I guess that's pretty good. Because that's what we wanted to get with the Rune-Scarred Demon anyways. Let's see. So if we play Pelakka Wurm, how much mana do we have here? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we get to play Pelakka Wurm. Opponent saying GG probably means he's got a burn spell of sorts in hand. Huh, we could also get Rune-Scarred Demon and get the Edict, but that's not very good with our opponent having Elvish Pioneer. I can't think of too many cards we can get with Rune-Scarred Demon to get us out of it. Maybe Séance? Let's see. 6, 8, so Séance, yeah, we could cast Séance. Yeah, I think we can try and get the Séance here. At the very least, it will be sweet. There it is. And let's play that, so we can, on the opponent's upkeep, get back Pelakka Wurm and gain 7. Alright. We could also get back Shadowborn Demon, but yeah, let's get back the Pelakka Wurm. Let's see if our opponent has instant speed burn, he does not. Go back up to 11. And now we have 2 big blockers, so... Alright, there's a Banefire we were expecting. Let's see how much. Nope, opponent not casting it. Instead it's a Nemesis of Mortals, which I don't think can go monstrous here. Nope. So it's just a 5/5 for the moment. So not very impressive. We can kill it with the Shadowborn Demon on our upkeep. And away the token goes. We don't get to draw a card because it got exiled. And let's get back Shadowborn Demon. Killing the Nemesis. Alright, and I think Pelakka Wurm will help us stabilize. So let's see, can we play Pelakka Wurm plus Armament Corps here? 7, I think we can. 7, and that's another 4, 5, yep. So the question is, where do we put the +1/+1 counters? And I think we put on the Armament Corps itself, because if we put it on the Demon, then our opponent can steal it and we don't have a flyer to block it. If we put it on Pelakka Wurm, that's just a juicy target for another steal spell. So I guess I'll put it on the Armament Corps. Let's attack first, in case our opponent has an instant he wants to play and perhaps has a Skullcrack he can play in response of Pelakka Wurm. Doesn't appear to be the case. Let's hope our opponent does not have a Skullcrack to prevent a life gain. And looks like he does not, so back up to 18 we go. And Armament Corps should be good enough here to stabilize. Let's put all the counters on him. And pause the turn. Alright, so what can we get back with Séance here? I guess just another Wayfinder. Could also get Baneslayer just to be safe, but I don't think that will be necessary. So Wayfinder milling us again, getting another land. And now we can get back the Visionary next turn to draw a card. which is pretty sweet. Alright, I think this is like a pretty bad matchup if you look at what the opponent played. But the life gain certainly helping out here. And Séance was pretty sweet this game. So I think we've got this one locked up. In red there isn't a sweeper our opponent can play to kill our creatures. Unless he goes Anger of the Gods, but then we still have the Pelakka Wurm left. So if he does attack with the 1/1, we want to make sure not to block with Pelakka Wurm. So I think we'll just block with the Wayfinder then. So he certainly might have another steal spell. Yep, there's a Portent. Stealing Pelakka Wurm. And let's see if he goes for an all-out attack. Or if he just sends the Pelakka Wurm. Alright, I think we can block here and prevent one from the Pelakka Wurm. I don't want to kill the Pelakka Wurm here and give our opponent an extra card. And we also need the Pelakka Wurm to kill the opponent, possibly. So we go down to 12. Opponent can fling this if he wants to. But then we're still at 5. Alright, so end step. Let's get back the Visionary to draw a card. And this should be game. Alright, shock. Our opponent's making a firm statement here. So we go down to 8 and that's game. So those GGs come right back at you as we attack for lethal. Let's not waste any more time. Alright, Abzan Midrange delivers, so let's move on to the next game. Alright, let's take a look at our opener. And we are on the play, only 2 lands and an ingot. So no double black anytime soon for the Muse, so I think we can mulligan. And this hand needs a 3rd land, but if it does then we are pretty set up. So let's lead with Forest, pass a turn. And hope to draw a land next turn. Next turn if it's a tap land that's still fine. But preferably now. Alright, I guess I'll take it. Visionary giving us an extra draw. And there's a land, so we get to cast Cultivate next turn into Arbor Colossus or Armament Corps. So exactly how we drew it up. So attack for 1. And for lands we need to get, I think we need 1 black and a white. Or actually with Ingot, I think green and white are fine. So yeah, let's get a plains and maybe... I'm not sure here, but I think this is fine. Given that we have Ingot, it probably doesn't matter a whole lot. Alright, 3 lands for the opponent. And no play. Can't have a counterspell up, but could have some sort of burn spell. So let's attack first. And then I think I just play the Arbor Colossus here. Given that I don't want to play the Armament Corps to give this counters and then have it burned out in response. And the Arbor Colossus can also become monsters. Alright, so opponent on 4 colors here. Only missing the green. So, let's see. I think we can play Armament Corps. But again, I don't want to put counters on this if our opponent can kill it in response. So I think I attack first and see what happens. Alright, Resounding Thunder on the Visionary, that's fine. So now I think I just put the counters on the Armament Corps itself. And I do think playing the core here is fine over playing the Ingot, because we do have another 5-drop we can play. And this applies a bit more pressure. Opponent's at 12, we have two 6/6s in play. Alright, so this does change that, and I think we can sacrifice the core. Keep around Arbor Colossus. Alright, so we can just play the Pelakka Wurm here. Unfortunately, no double black for Rune-Scarred Demon, so maybe we messed up somewhere with the Cultivate, but we did count on Darksteel Ingot being in play. But I do think playing Pelakka Wurm is worth it. Now that our opponent can't mess with the resolution, can't mess with our life gain in any way, and we get to attack. And given that our opponent has tributes in his deck, we now know that maybe distributing the counters is probably better. But looks like our opponent did not find an answer. Bolt of Keranos on our face is not gonna do much. So yeah, we just managed to outdraw our opponent with a very good curve. And there we go. So 3-drop Accelerant into turn 4, play a 5-drop into another 5-drop into a 7-drop was enough to close out the game. So let's move on to the next one. Alright, let's take a look at our opener, which looks alright. We have a Wayfinder to go along with a Séance and a Graveborn Muse, which we do need a second black for, but we can likely find with the Wayfinder. So a decent keep. A lead with the Guildgate. And let's see what our opponent's up to. It's a Opulent Palace. Alright, let's, I think, go ahead and play the Plains in case we draw Brimaz and a Plains here. And then play the Wayfinder. And try and get a black source. Instead we get another Plains. Alright, so Graveborn Muse is gonna have to wait a bit probably. But we do get to play Séance with two Wayfinders in play, which will find us more goodies. Opponent with his own Wayfinder. And let's see what he reveals. Alright, so it looks like a Species Gorger, perhaps the Infinite Turns combo deck. Shadowborn Demon, also missing the double black. Let's lead with Elvish Visionary. Maybe we hit a Guildgate, and there we go. So we can play that now. And I do think we offered a trade, because we do have Tribute to Hunger in our deck. So we want to keep the board clean on the opponent's side, so when he does play a big creature, we can kill it with Tribute. Alright, Island. So could have a counter spell up here. Instead he taps out for Cultivate, so we can resolve our Séance, which should be pretty good. Alright. And I think we can attack first. And hopefully he blocks the Visionary. Does not block. So let's go ahead and play the Séance. And our opponent is playing green, so he could have a way to remove the enchantment. But most decks don't play a ton of main deck enchantment removal. So now we get to Séance up the Wayfinder, which puts more creatures in the graveyard, which we can then in turn Séance up again. I think I want the untapped source. And there we see Pelakka Wurm we can get back for 7 life, which is not bad, but probably not super relevant against this opponent. So still looking for that second black, but hopefully the other Wayfinder can deliver. Void Snare on the Séance. Alright, that's a way to get rid of it. So now our opponent could be keeping up counter spells. But we're not gonna play into that. And we did find second black, so great news for Graveborn Muse, which we do get to play now. And I do think we play her over the Séance, just because Séance is harder to get rid of. We need to play our Swamp first, obviously. And looks like this resolves, alright. So maybe our opponent has a way to remove the Muse here. Alright, 5 mana, what do you play? Another Wayfinder. Keeping up a counterspell perhaps. Alright, revealing more Void Snares. I think I've played against this opponent before, and he had a bunch of Archaeomancers, Dinrova Horrors, and then the Time Warp combo. Alright, so an extra card gives us more lands. I don't think we play out the Séance here, I think we just lead with the Visionary, and these lands are fine. Let's see what we get. Planar Cleansing, alright. Let's attack first. Opponent chumps and trades. And I think I will respect a counterspell. Although, let's see. If our opponent counters the Séance, then next turn we get to resolve Rune-Scarred Demon. So yeah, maybe just playing out Séance here is fine. Alright, and no counters, so our opponent might not have any counters, or perhaps has a way to get rid of the Séance. I think we can play the Visionary here, just to make sure we draw that extra card, and then next turn we can use it on the Wayfinder to keep fueling our graveyard. So we have a decent board presence, a difficult to get rid of enchantment in play, and Species Gorger is not a great card because it's just staying on defense here. Our opponent could have a Vapor Snag to protect it, but I do think we just run out Shadowborn Demon here to kill it. So let's get back Wayfinder. I don't think we need to get back Pelakka Wurm quite yet, although we can probably do that next turn. Let's get the Swamp. And let's see. Let's lead off with... Although maybe resolving Rune-Scarred Demon over killing this is better. Yeah, probably. So we don't get to attack, but we do get to resolve Rune-Scarred Demon. Probably just getting another Rune-Scarred Demon. And with Séance in play, that means if they die, we get another activation out of them. So no attacks here, but our opponent has to return his Species Gorger on his upkeep. And let's discard a bunch of lands we don't need. And let's return Pelakka Wurm to gain some life. Alright, so we're looking pretty good here. So we just have to hope our opponent doesn't combo us out here with the infinite turns combo. Which is why I was tempted to try and kill the Species Gorger. But our opponent needs a lot of things for the combo. He needs Archaeomancer and Species Gorger in play. and then has to have cast a Time Warp. So we now know he has Archaeomancer and Species Gorger, so all he might be missing is Time Warp and perhaps some time and some mana. He returned a Void Snare, so he could return one of our creatures, could also return the Séance. Probably returns, alright, returning Séance. So I think what we do here is attack with everyone, maybe prompt the opponent to use removal on the demon or a bounce spell. And if he does, we can kill the Archaeomancer with the Shadowborn Demon. Alright, Quickling. So it doesn't give us the chance to kill the Archaeomancer. But I don't think he will have enough mana to play the entire combo next turn anyways, so that should not be a problem. So there's no sweeper we should play around in those colors. So I think playing Rune-Scarred Demon is fine. Yeah. And then play out the Sandsteppe Citadel. And what do we get? Might just be Tribute to Hunger, to have some interaction with the opponent's combo. And play the Sandsteppe Citadel. We don't need this Cultivate, and I don't think we need this Wayfinder, although might as well discard a land. We might have forgotten to play land last turn. So yeah, our opponent has, let's see, 9 mana, so he could play Species Gorger and Archaeomancer, but doesn't have the Time Warp for the infinite turns. Does get Void Snare, which he will cast on a demon, which makes sense. So 4 mana left, 4 cards, we know one of them is Species Gorger. And alright. So what's the plan? I think we can just try and play Shadowborn Demon, killing the Archaeomancer here. And then we can always Tribute to Hunger in response. Let's see if this works. It does, so we get to attack with everyone. If our opponent doesn't interact, he's dead, and looks like that works. Alright. Let's move on to a final game. Alright, let's take a look at our opening hand, which is an easy mulligan having 6 lands. This is another one of those risky keeps if we don't hit a 3rd land. But it is pretty sweet if we do, so I think I'll keep. Let's just be a maximum greed here. So if we do hit a 3rd land, let's see, what lands do we get with Cultivate? We need another black source and certainly another white source. So I think we'll go for... Alright, so now we have 2nd black and a 3rd land, so we can either go for another green or another white. Yes, that's me. And yeah, so either we want to get the white for Planar Cleansing or we want to get more green for Pelakka Wurm. Opponent leads with Seaside Citadel into Arcane Sanctum, so it could be a 5-color concoction. And let's go ahead and cast Cultivate. Now we don't need any more black, so I think we'll go for a white and a green here, just to hedge a little. We also have cards like Arbor Colossus we might want to cast at some point. And we can always treasure find for the Cultivate to find the missing lands. but I think we want to keep the treasure find around for later if we can help it. So I'll probably lead with Graveborn Muse to get some card advantage going. Third land for the opponent, and no play. So could technically have a counterspell up here. So I guess we'll find out if this gets countered. I would not be too sad if it does, but I would also be happy if this resolves. And there's a dissolve, alright. So let's go ahead and play the Sandsteppe Citadel, fixing all our mana problems. So no need to treasure find the Cultivate. So we're a little light on action here. We don't have any proactive play. The Shadowborn Demon is more a removal spell. Planar Cleansing is a sweeper, so maybe we might treasure find the Graveborn Muse back. Right, opponent passing. He's got all the colors he possibly needs. So yeah, I think I like treasure finding the Graveborn Muse here. Let's see if this resolves. And let's see if this resolves. Probably doesn't. Resounding Thunder, might want to wait a bit until it resolves. Alright, there it is, killing the Graveborn Muse. So we don't get any extra cards, unfortunately. So we do need to draw some action here. I'm guessing our opponent drew the Resounding Thunder, otherwise he might have used it earlier instead of the Dissolve. Alright, Séance, that's a nice one. Yeah, let's go ahead and try and resolve this. It's not gonna do a whole lot now, but it might later. So getting back the Graveborn Muse, unfortunately, does not draw us any extra cards. So let's not get her back. But if we ever draw those Wayfinders or Elvish Visionaries, we might be able to get some card advantage out of them. And our opponent could have triple white here for Planar Cleansing, so could get rid of the Séance. We also have our own Planar Cleansing that would destroy the Séance. But we also have a Shadowborn Demon for removal, and there's a Visionary right on cue. So let's draw a card. And Baneslayer Angel is also a nice one. Do we play it is a question. If our opponent goes Planar Cleansing here, that would be pretty sad. But we can't really do nothing here. I think we can wait one turn here, just to see what our opponent's up to. I don't want to run Baneslayer Angel into Planar Cleansing, because that would also get rid of Séance. And we've got nothing left here in our hand, so if our opponent ever taps out, we can maybe make a more informed decision. Still nothing. Alright. And another land, not really what we need. So let's go ahead and attack. At least we start doing some damage. And pause the turn again. If we could get this Elvish Visionary killed, we could draw an extra card with Séance. But no luck so far. Alright, there's a Warmonk, a target for Shadowborn Demon. And nothing else. Alright. So another land. Let's go ahead and try to Shadowborn Demon the Warmonk. If he counters this, that's fine, because we still get the Séance activation of Shadowborn. And this way we can also sacrifice the Elvish Visionary to the upkeep trigger. Let's see if our opponent has any responses. Alright, away the War Monk goes. And let's pause a turn. Don't wanna play the Angel as well. So Planar Cleansing would be pretty bad for us here still, because then it would get rid of Séance. We would not get to draw the card from the Visionary. But I guess at least we could resolve Baneslayer. Opponent does have 5 cards, but didn't play any draw spells yet. So I'm not sure if our opponent's like a full control deck or just a value 5 color deck. Resounding Thunder for 6 on the Shadowborn Demon, alright. That's acceptable. Makes me a little less hesitant to play the Baneslayer. We could Shadowborn our own Elvish Visionary, but that seems bad, as we might need the removal spell, and Rune-Scarred Demon is actually a perfect draw here, as we get to find another Rune-Scarred Demon. So we get 2 extra threats, and their opponent tapped out. So let's attack for 1. Opponent drops to 17, and now he has a threat he has to counter, 1 he has to kill. So he's in a pretty tough spot. So Planar Cleansing would still be minorly annoying, but then we do get to resolve the second Rune-Scarred Demon, so it's not all bad. Ground Assault also works. So now he does get to keep up a counter spell. But we also get to return the Rune-Scarred Demon with Séance, which is very nice. So let's see, what do we get? I'm thinking Sheoldred or Pelakka Wurm. Think I'll go for the less greedy play of Pelakka Wurm, just because even if this does die to a sweeper, we still get to draw that card. So let's go ahead and attack first. And then play the Pelakka Wurm. And see if this gets countered or not. It does get countered, alright. But again, we do get to return it with Séance. So let's gain some life here. We could have waited, so maybe in a future turn the 7/7 blocker might be useful. But against a deck that could have Planar Cleansing, I wanna just get my 7 life right away. And opponent passes a turn. Still no creature we want to return there. Another Visionary, that's good. Let's attack for 1. And play a Visionary, which draws us into a Wayfinder. Alright. That does help our Séance. And there's a Pelakka Wurm. So I think I get the basic here. Now the question is, do we also play Rune-Scarred Demon here? Our opponent did use a counter last turn already. But I think we can wait. And on our opponent's turn, do we get back the Pelakka Wurm? I think we do. Just for another 7 life. So we have a nice buffer. Now the opponent's gonna have to make a move at some point. If he has a Kozilek as a finisher, then we should be able to kill it with Shadowborn Demon. So first he has to find a way to get rid of the Séance. And we also have Planar Cleansing as an answer to Kozilek. Plus we could always a Rune-Scarred Demon for a tribute to hunger. So we can just attack with these 1/1s here until our opponent makes a move. And Anger of the Gods is a move, which also exiles our creatures, so we don't even get them back with the Séance, which is unfortunate. Alright. I guess we play the Baneslayer here, as I really want to resolve the Rune-Scarred Demon, if I can help it. Alright. Opponent has lots of mana, and Ground Assault is the answer for Baneslayer. And 2 cards left, so I think I'm gonna make my move for the Rune-Scarred here. Another Planar Cleansing. Yeah, let's go ahead and try and resolve Rune-Scarred Demon, which does resolve. And what sweet cards are left? Sheoldred is one of them. Our Armament Corps and Arbor Colossus is also pretty good, but I think Sheoldred is a little more powerful. So we can pause the turn, and if our opponent removes the Rune-Scarred Demon 1/1, then we can still get the Séance activation of Rune-Scarred Demon. So it's unfortunate that those guys got exiled, because I really would have liked to draw 2 extra cards with them. Alright, let's see what the draw step is here. Another land, let's try and attack. I'm not gonna play out the Sheoldred unless our opponent removes the Rune-Scarred first. Again, to play around a sweeper. So yeah, it's our opponent that has to make a move, and there's his first draw spell of the game, Inspiration. So back up to 4 cards. And think twice now, so yeah, our opponent finally got the card advantage train going. But it might be too little too late. Already used 2 Ground Assaults. And 1 Dissolve. So it's got 1 Ground Assault and 2 Dissolves left for sure. Might have some Traumatic Visions as well. Alright, let's attack. And play out the Darksteel Ingot. End step, our opponent's gonna flashback Think Twice, or cast an Inspiration rather. Another Think Twice. So it doesn't have a ton of mana left here, but it does still have triple white for a Planar Cleansing. But now only has 5 lands, so Planar Cleansing not an option unless he's got another basic land. So he might be looking for a Ground Assault. There's a 6th land, so could still have Planar Cleansing, but another Think Twice probably means he doesn't have it. Yeah, it's got a full grip now, but only 3 mana left, so Ground Assault is one of the few cards that can kill a Rune-Scarred Demon now. An Edict effect would also do it. I'm not sure if our opponent found an answer. Looks like he didn't. Alright. Shock, shock, shock. Can't cast a shock with the Seaside Citadel, however. Alright, so we managed to grind through a control deck. and Séance did a pretty good job here. Alright, so I wanna thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this gameplay, and as always, have a nice day.